Lovely. Suzie,
Yes.
welcome on the podcast. This is Mike and Soul, and this is an edition on education and mindset, just discussing what does it entail in terms of where Africa is going, where the world is going, and given the fact that you're an African who teaches in a different country, maybe first I would like you to introduce yourself and just to give us perspective. Why have I sat with you? And maybe I'll also share exactly why I have called you. So you share first. Why do you think you're here? What do you do? And then from there, we'll continue the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Benny. I am so excited to be here, actually, because when I came into the country for holiday, I didn't expect to do a podcast.
Yes.
So as it is, it's like, you know what, some of these opportunities come when you least expect them, but you always say, be ready. So my name is Suzie Wangari. I am an assistant principal at a secondary school in Outer London. I've been an educator for over 15 years. And I love what I do. And it's because what I say about myself is I am a teacher, not just by training, but a teacher by calling and a teacher at heart.
What's the difference between a teacher by training and a teacher by calling?
A teacher by training is somebody who uses logic. So it's somebody who's gone to school, has gathered the knowledge, knows the books and what to do, but doesn't have the passion, the drive, and the purpose behind what he or she says and puts forward. A teacher who is a teacher by calling and by heart is somebody who understands purpose. So I, for example, understand that my purpose is young people. So everything I do is about building that young person to be the best that they can be, nurturing them to see beyond their limitations. And that takes more than me going to school. It takes me being in prayer because I'm a believer. It takes me understanding that child. And the mission that I carry is to make sure that the child and the young person accomplishes their destiny.
Lovely.
And that's the difference.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Maybe another question I would ask you. Now this teacher was teaching by calling, and this teacher was teaching because of, you say by calling, and there's by calling and by, you say there's a teacher by calling and a teacher by?
No, by training.
By training.
By training,
Lovely.
yes.
What's the distinction? Like, what do you think this teacher who's teaching by training is lacking that makes them not teach from the heart, where they teach maybe from the skills? And these other teacher who's teaching as a calling, what also is influencing them? These two teachers, I would just like you to delve deeper into that. What do you think is the main factor here?
And one of the things that I know when you're a teacher by training is that you will go through an academic system, a curriculum. You will either choose to become a teacher, so you go to high school, you learn in university, you get a bachelor's of education degree. So you do that pathway where you've decided, I want to be a teacher, or you become a teacher by default, where you chose something else but it didn't work out and you decided, I can still go to school and teach. So your drive is based on what you have learned, the money that you get, the reward, the physical material reward that you have. And one of the biggest determinants of a teacher by training only, who's not going by calling, is somebody who you'll consistently hear them complaining about the system of education. The money is not enough. These children are too much. It's a chore. You feel that you're not doing it naturally almost. There's no drive behind it. You're looking at everything else and you're constantly ambitious. You're like, I'm not just going to be a teacher. I want to be this, and I want to be assistant principal. I want to be the head teacher. I want to do this. It's very much about yourself. But when it comes to a teacher by calling, what you notice is that from when you are born, the Bible says that God knows us before we were even born. And that calling, I believe, actually comes from before you were born. So you realize that you love working with, say, for example, young people. If you're a teacher, you love seeing the destinies changing. And so the drive comes from a place of almost supernatural strength, actually, whereby God starts dropping things in you. So I look at, for example, Jesus, and I know that when Jesus was in the temple, and the parents didn't know where he was, and he was in a temple, and what was he doing? He was asking questions and speaking to them, because it was beyond him being a son of Mary and Joseph. It was about his calling in terms of what he needs to do to make us understand what salvation is. And so when it comes to teaching, the person who is called is somebody who goes to God on behalf of the destinies of those children. It is somebody who sees beyond what the child is presenting and not just challenges. It might be a fantastic child, but can you see beyond them? And how do you see beyond them? You see beyond them by going back to your knowledge, going back to a place of prayer, going back to a place of revelation, seeing what even the parents can't see.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about ambition when it comes to teachers who teach from a place of training. Is this connected to identity? Maybe the aspect of ambition? Like, because, the world has said that ambitions are good. So is this really connected to identity? What's the relationship between identity and ambition? The whole thing about wanting titles, wanting the promotion, wanting to be the head of department, assistant deputy, all those things. What's the relationship between, how does identity affect a teacher?
Okay, so one thing I know is it's good to be ambitious. It's good to want more, because if you don't want more and you're not growing, you're stagnant, which means you're dead, really. But there is a place where identity matters, where it comes to growth or ambition. So somebody who is very secure in their identity is somebody who's self-aware. So when you look at a person who is very grounded spiritually, they're grounded within themselves physically, they appreciate who they are, they're very aware of where they're coming from, even culturally. They can differentiate these things. They're not afraid of being given feedback or being told certain things that they can improve themselves. So in that quest of really knowing who you are and being very secure in your identity, it really speaks a lot in how you go through the growth, which ends up being ambition. So if you're just going by dry ambition, what you're looking at is external validation. So you're looking at, if I am a teacher for 20 years, a classroom teacher for 20 years, you're not satisfied within that, because there are people who are called to be a classroom teacher, by the way, and not become any higher than that, because they will be higher within that classroom. But somebody who's just going by dry ambition will be looking at, what are people thinking about me? What is it that people are saying about me? How can I get more money? How is it that I can get more things to myself? And I think the greatest difference, which is why I think ambition is problematic, is the fact that if you're driven because of yourself, then you have an insecurity in your identity. Because somebody who's secure in who they are sticks to the mission, they will grow, and they will be ambitious even, but based from a perspective of impact, legacy, and giving.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, right? Because you said there is now a level of teachers who teach from the heart. Maybe I would just like to take you a bit deeper. As a child, did you know you would end up as a teacher?
No. Not as a professional teacher.
What did you want to become?
I wanted to work with people.
Wanted to work with people?
Yes.
But there was no specific context attached to it yet?
No.
Okay. When you became a teacher, is it something that you're at peace with?
Absolutely.
You became a teacher?
Yes.
Now, I've realized, because I know you've also gone through pain, and maybe if you're okay with it, I would want you to maybe even delve deeper to share with us some of the pains you've gone through. Because I've discovered in Kenya, most teachers, either you'll find that there's poverty, which now affects them in terms of marital conflict, and then there's stress at work, There are many things that attack the heart of the teacher, because you said there are teachers who teach from the heart. And the Bible says that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. What's a relationship between the heart in relation to teaching? And are there moments where your heart was attacked when it comes to you as a person, and now therefore affecting you as a teacher? And how did you handle it, if you managed to handle it?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to be a person who works with people, not gadgets, and young people. So I was a Sunday school teacher when I was in high school. And then when I was in uni, I became somebody who works with teenagers. But the thing is, when I became a teacher, I knew that that is where God wanted me, because like you said, I was at peace regardless of what it takes. Now, coming to the heart, one of the most challenging things with teaching is that you're working with young people who are an incomplete structure, or an incomplete, they're not yet complete. They're in a place where they need to be built. So when you look at a building, for example, that is just there's a foundation. When you're a teacher, you're looking at the foundations, you're building foundations, you're putting systems to put up the structure, who's the young person, who then can be released into the world as an adult who's character ready, skills ready. That in itself lends to your heart, because there's no way you're dealing with emotions of a young person, the challenges that they go through, and you're like a stone. You don't even feel anything. It affects your mind. Mentally, it's very tiresome. You go to school and you get in and you have, let's say you're teaching a class of 30. You've got 30 different identities there, 30 different challenges. So it affects your mental state. It gets you so tired because you're frustrated. Why is this child not to the level where I want them to be now? Why is this one slower than the other one? Why are there some that are faster? And then in your heart, you don't leave teaching in school at the end of the day. So I finish, or the students finish at 3 p.m. in the UK. I don't leave those children at 3. I go home with them, because there's a connection between the destiny of that child and what I feel about them, because I'm called to them. So when it comes to challenges that I've gone through, one of them is the mental one, where when I began teaching, for example, because I trained in Kenya, and Kenyan children are actually generally quite disciplined. And I went into a class, and these kids, it's like you're not there. You're literally standing there, but you might as well not be there. Have you seen Sister Act 2? Have you ever watched it, where the teacher is that they're just doing whatever they want? And I was thinking to myself, what do? I felt attacked without anyone saying anything. My pride was wounded. My mental health was like, what do I have to do this anyway? But what I did to overcome is I went back to 2 things, which I do till date. One is prayer. I said a prayer in my heart when I was standing there. I just thought, oh, you know what, God, help me here. And then the second thing I did is go back to my roots, what my mom used to do, which is tell me in a very assertive way that don't do this. This is how we do it. So I would then say, what I do now is make sure that my boundaries are there, the system is there, so that the children know exactly what they're coming into. So in that class, for example, I said you need to stop doing what you're doing and you need to sit down. And you become assertive with your voice. But it's backed by the fact that I'm not walking away from you. Just because you're showing me that doesn't mean I'm walking away. You will be fantastic by the time I'm done with you in this session. So that's one thing. But the other thing about that is it gets attacked really is your identity, actually. I have an accent. I am African. I'm short. I'm a woman. These are things, I'm in the minority. So these are things that get attacked almost every day by different people.
Just a minute. An African.
Yes.
A woman.
Yes.
You said short.
Yeah.
Minority. What else did you say?
Accent.
Wow. Those are very heavy things when it comes to like self-esteem. So like, let's break it down. An African. So here we are talking about racism, right?
Yeah. Okay. Institutional, especially. Yes.
So there's something called institutional racism.
Yeah.
Okay. About brevity, in terms of you being short. So how did you handle that?
So we go back to the identity factor. Okay. Mm-hmm. So whereby I am 4'11". Mm-hmm. So I had to accept that I am good as I am, that God created me to be that height for a reason. And actually realizing that people favor me because I'm small.
Wait, so you accepted at what age?
I accepted in my teenagehood.
In a teenage.
In my I struggled a lot. I struggled a lot because I was what people might say is a late bloomer. So when people were going out with boys, I wasn't.
What's a late bloomer?
So a late bloomer is somebody who is not like an average person. So when everybody else is, they have their puberty in place, you're not. So if it is something like getting a period for a girl, a late bloomer might get their period at 16.
Sometime, yeah.
Yes. Or their body parts might be slower in growing. So, or even mentally, actually.
So by this for a girl, you mean something like breast and
all
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even beauty.
Yes.
Accepting like, I'm pretty, I'm not a child anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a question. So as a teenager, was it pointed out? Like, how did you know you were short?
Because my nickname was Susan Kadogo. So people called me Kasuzi. Or Susan Kadogo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think being named according to your appearance, right? Because I also know people are called Biggie.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think it has an effect in terms of the identity of a person and how you perceive yourself? Do you think names have power? And what power did it have on you?
Yes, they do. They do, because in primary, people called me Susan, so Susan Kadogo. And I always felt small, literally, not just physically. I kept thinking I'm just small.
Even in terms of life.
My life, where am I going to go to? There's some things that I already decided I can never be because I don't have the physical presence. So in places where you can wear high heels to do certain things. I never used to think that, I can maybe wear high heels to be a bit taller to do certain things. No, I always used to think my life is limited, that I'm not good enough because I'm small, because I'm tiny, because I'm short, that people won't see me.
And right now in life, do you fear big things?
Because
I remember like when I told you we're sitting on a podcast. Do you feel like you fear being big? Being big in terms of like greatness? And do you feel like it also maybe could have connected with that name in a way?
Yeah.
Yes. Like it planted the mindset, like you're small. So anything that is big, or when you meet quote unquote like a big person, like could there be a sense of anxiety because of that aspect of identity and naming?
Yeah, and I think in terms of, especially because even if in my peers in primary and secondary called me based on my size, and they meant well, they weren't even doing it as a bullying tactic. It limited me in a lot of ways. Like you're saying, right now is when I'm breaking the patterns of I enter a room and I feel that I have presence. This is the time I'm breaking the barriers of even big things. I was talking to my friends the other day because I want to do a conference in October for young people and their parents.
Okay, you share more details.
Yes. So I said, I want to do that last year. I didn't do it. My friend asked me, why did you not do it? I said, well, I think it was in the right time. Later, I called her and I said, actually, it's because I was scared. I was scared at the magnitude of it. So the other day I was talking to a different friend and I said about this conference this year. And he said to me, you need to make sure that imposter syndrome doesn't overcome you because you have what it takes
to do it.
But to answer your question, it is because of those things that I'm always seeing myself as small. And so subconsciously, I veer away from huge things until now I'm noticing that it is happening through people like you.
Interesting. So can one fear greatness?
100%.
Like, there are people who can fear greatness because of that sense of naming.
Yeah.
So going back to the 5 things you told me about you being African, you being short. The other thing was you being a woman.
Yeah.
So how did that also contribute in terms of like the insecurity when teaching these kids?
So with it's the sense that I'm entering a room and I feel an African woman, to be precise, because African women typically, at least in the past when I was growing up, they were not in the forefront of a lot of leadership. So what would happen is that you felt that you had to minimize yourself and that people would ignore what you're doing or not taking you seriously. So some of that I realized I carried with me. So there are parts of the African woman in me that were fantastic based on my mom, like her assertiveness. But where it came to me walking into a room, the students, I kept thinking, are they taking me seriously? Really? And that would limit what I was thinking until I realized actually I have to take away that gender aspect and say, you know what, I'm as good as a guy, because men, from what I know and what I've seen, they don't limit themselves the way, or are not limited by society the way women are. And so I had to put myself in a place where I'm saying, actually, I am as educated, I am as good. And actually, because I've got sides of my femininity that are helping me in my profession, that's what I used. But it took a conscious decision to make sure that I'm not seeing myself as an African woman. It was even worse when I went for interviews I mentioned systemic racism, because the system isn't built for minority. And we are less than 2% of Black people in leadership. Yeah. So I would go into a room and I'm the only person with the qualities I've told you. So I'd walk in and feel like I'm already at a loss. I'm not going to be picked up for this job. Ended up going for 20 interviews. 20 interviews. Until I got a friend of mine who's a coach who taught me how to do these interviews and come out of those limitations. Yeah.
Interesting. So you've talked about the African woman. Break it down for me, because I was just doing a profiling of the African woman, the different types of women in Africa, and I appreciate all African women, and I honor you. It's not coming out as an attack. And I realized there are like about 6 kinds. So there's the domestic woman. She sits at home, she cooks nice tea, she takes care of the kids, prepares them for school, raises a family. Call her the domestic woman. This is a woman who has not received any exposure. She's not into any business enterprise. She's just a good woman, domestic woman. So for her, she's never seen anything in life really. For her life is defined from family, and her confines are within that family only. You might not find her in any social circle. Her best friend are the children, and the husband is a bit busy. So the man maybe comes home once in a while. They might not really have so many conversations. Probably she's been defined by culture. She was taught how to cook nice food. And even when you watch most television stations in Kenya, you'll see women being taught on how they need to cook, how they need to make their husbands happy. And there's, of course, that place of honor and submission. We are not disregarding it in any way. So the domestic woman. The second woman, I saw she's called the religious woman. She's very active in church. She honors the pastor. She's the one who cooks the lemon water for the pastor. She's, very active in church. She's known as an intercessor, but really doesn't have a relationship with her children. Maybe if she has a daughter, her firstborn, they're not really friends. At home, there's a way in which She might have attitude issues, but out there she's loved a lot. Especially she gets a love from church, because where we get love, that's where we are rooted.
Yeah.
If you get love from a place of family, you'll be extremely rooted in family. You'll never want to go outside. If you get love from church, you'll be extremely rooted in church. There are people who even sleep in church, because that's where they actually get a sense of significance. Then number 3, I saw there is a village woman. The village woman is really interested in the issues of the community. She wants to attend burials. Her significance comes by she's known by the village. So she's the one who cuts cake in weddings. There's a way she's known. She's the life of the party in the community. I'm still looking at Africa. So there's a village woman. Now this one has not received education, but she's found a way to build her social circle and significance through the women who are her neighbors. So she can pull crowds. She's a crowd mover. When MCAs come and they want to gather a meeting, this woman has a big compound. She has many sons. They have like 2 acres of land. They have enough maize. She's a woman of the village. When she speaks, there are women that listen to her. So she's the village woman. Then there's the 4th woman. She's called the wounded woman. Maybe she tried marriage, it failed. A number of things have failed in life. So she's so wounded and she never heals from it. So she decided I'll also hurt other people. But she's built a philosophy around pain. And this philosophy is so heavy. So she looks for other people who've also been wounded and she tells them, come on this side. So this one encourages freedom. She tells these other women, you need to know who you are. She's wounded. So she's not healed, but she's decided not to heal at the same time. Then there's a 5th woman. I call her the alpha woman. Now, this one was wounded, but she exchanged the wounds with work. So the society looks up to her. Now, you find most politicians in Kenya, women who've run for presidency, are now the alpha woman that I say, or media. Research says at least 60% of women who are in the Kenyan media are actually single mothers or divorced in one way or the other. Why? Because now for them, they were hurt, but they exchanged it with a sense of work. And a sense of performance. So this woman said, I take my children to the best school, I'll live in the best place, and I'll show the world that you actually don't need a man. Which is true. The identity of a woman is independent, but at the same time there's a place where a man comes in. But now for this woman, she says, I'll ensure that I drive this narrative. So for this alpha woman, she's actually an icon. Both men and women look up to her. But the problem is that she's wounded. I've had mentors who are now 75 years old, women, who may be divorced when they were 50s. They succeeded a lot in the area of leadership, some in diplomacy, in media, in business. But right now when I sit down with them, they tell me, now that my life is quiet, I'm realizing where I was wounded. That there are places where I did not see it, but now because I've already done everything that I was supposed to do in the world, I have the big car, I have the big house, but I'm realizing there's a sense of emptiness that to some degree can only be filled by healing. Because there's a difference between healing, moving on, and forgiveness. Because forgiveness can be a bit instant. Healing is a process. Because in healing, we're talking of letting go, allowing your heart to let go this person. And there's a book called Wounds That Heal, Bringing Our Hearts to the Cross. This guy says that deep wounds require deep healing. So that means that you can forgive, but healing is a procedure. Because for healing, these memories need to be replaced by other memories, or these memories need to turn into wisdom.
Yeah.
And then now there's a part of moving on. Now, there are people who move on without really forgiving. It's like, I get a wound on my toes, then what do? I wear socks. It doesn't mean I've healed. I've just covered it. So there are people who do that. Now, looking at all these dynamics, and there's the last woman. Now she's called the woman of purpose. The woman of purpose is a woman who, number one, has admitted all the mistakes. She's analyzed her life and even analyzed where her mother missed it. She's analyzed her environment. She knows where her environment hurt her. She knows where relationships hurt her. She's taken accountability and responsibility of the mistakes she made or where she was not wise. She has made peace with her past.
Yeah.
And she has also made faith with her future. Let me repeat. She's made peace with her past, but she's also made faith with her future. She's a woman who knows her weaknesses. She's learned from the mistakes that she's made, and she's willing to build that capacity. Now, I'm defining the African woman. These are the different types of women, right? Now, if I was to ask you, at that time, before you became this version of you, among these 6 types of women, where were you?
I was different women at different times.
Different times.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah, because maybe the least that I wasn't is the domestic one.
The domestic.
That domestic one, I wasn't that much. But all the others, at some point I was. And it wasn't even pretty because it was painful. So at some point I was the wounded woman. Because I was married for 14 years and then that finished. So at some point I was wounded and I was thinking, you know what? Every thought you can think about when somebody has a marriage that has ended was in my mind. That was it. What's the point in it? You know, lashing out. Even if I wasn't lashing out to people, I was lashing out at myself. I was wondering whether I'm good enough, whether the person was good enough. Was it even right? You know, all these things. So at some point I was that wounded woman. At some other point, I was the person who, did you define the one who replaced it with work?
Yes, she's called the alpha woman.
The alpha woman. At some point I was, and I was focused on my studies. I was focused on my career. I was focused on just growing myself in that way. And then at some point, who's the other one? There was the wounded one, the alpha one, the religious one. Yes, the religious. So the religious, hey, so the religious one, right? The religious woman is the one where, at some point I was where everything is, God will do it. I'm going to pray about it. Yes. I'll fast and pray and not do anything about my ugly side. The things that even in that prayer, or even my pastor is my very good friend. And sometimes he'd ask questions that would trigger me. And I'm like, nah. Yeah. But he didn't even know. But where it came to that, looking at myself, at some point I wasn't. I was just saying, God's going to do it. You know. And
do you think it's an avoidant mechanism?
Yes.
Especially for we who are in the church. Like we like saying, like for example, I attended a burial where a young man drank alcohol, lived an irresponsible life. Then this guy is knocked by a car, and then they say that it was the will of God. When I was in that burial, they say it was the will of God for him to die, that we loved him, but God loved him more. Do you think it's an avoidant mechanism of us not taking responsibility or accountability, where to some degree we hide under the God card? Yeah. Like, God will just do it. Let's give God time. And do you feel like that to some degree hindered? How did it affect you as a teacher? Especially now the pain, the divorce and all that. How do you think it affected you as a teacher? Like now standing before people and all these things, how did it affect you?
Yes, avoidance is a mechanism for coping because you want self-preservation. But what we forget is that you can't preserve yourself. Now, whether you believe in God or you don't, the fact is there's a spiritual side. Exactly. Yes. There's a spiritual side, and I can preserve myself physically by maybe going to the gym looking a certain way up to a certain point. But I can't preserve myself beyond certain
measures.
Yeah. So I think, especially as an African religious woman, we struggle a lot with that. We don't want to look inside yourself and reflect and do the work that is required, whether you go to therapy, whether you talk to someone, whether you, do something that will refresh you, go out for a walk, do something that will help you to grow and to come out of those hurts and wounds. But I think one of the things that affected me, maybe not so much of the teaching in a class, but leadership in a school through that season, is that I was more reactive than proactive. So I would go in and I would be reacting to situations.
Instead of being proactive.
Yeah, so I'm always on the back foot, bitter sometimes, and I'm looking at it and taking things personally. And I remember a number of times students would be quite naughty, and then they'll apologize, and then at break time, an hour later, they'll say, "Hi, miss, I'm still annoyed."
So can it get to a place where a parent cannot forgive a child? Do you think that
100%.
forgiveness is not just between like husband and wife, that as a parent you might fail to forgive your children?
Yes. Yes. And you can allow the frustration of what you see in your child, because as a parent, if you're looking at the character of your child and thinking that that is the child, that's not true. You need to separate the character from the person, because what they portray at that point is just a passing thing that can be redeemed. And it is very easy for a parent to be wounded by a child to a point where they dislike the child.
So you're telling me about disliking a child.
Yes.
Can a parent dislike a child?
Absolutely. You see, people talk about the mother wound, which is moms hurting their kids because of their previous trauma.
Yes.
And then you have the father wound, mostly from an absent dad. And then you have what people forget is the child wound, because it exists, whereby a parent is so tired, so frustrated.
Parent has been hurt.
Yeah, by the child. And so it exists. It is very easy for somebody to go into that space without really knowing. And that's why I always say parents need to take a break from being a parent, even when you're a parent. Assess yourself. Do I like my child? Or is my child just my child because they are my child? Do things that will help you to unpick those things as you go along. Because as a child grows, I work with teenagers. They are difficult sometimes because they're growing. So they can come at you, and if you take it personally, like I used to do, they'll come and say hello, and they're genuine, and you're looking at them like, I don't like these kids. I don't want to go and teach, to a point where in some of the classes, I'd feel like I don't want to wake up and go in and teach. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I've seen, like I remember when I was in school, there are teachers who used to like certain classes and hate certain classes. Every school has a Forest. In Kenya, you joke and say Forest, from Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like there are teachers who used to just come in our class and get tired. And they'll be like, they don't really want to come and teach. Now, so do you think every teacher also needs a strategy of forgiveness and healing at a personal level, because it can also affect the children?
Yes.
And for you, how did it work? How are you able to, just maneuver that and even heal from the divorce, heal from the insecurities? What happened? Where was the starting point?
Realizing that you have that issue. So I realized, based on talking to my friends, I've got very good friends, some very good friends who are very open in what is going on. And so I asked some of my friends, what do you see in me as the weaknesses? What are the things I can improve on? I spoke to my mom. I spoke to a therapist at some point. So it's that recognizing that you are not whole emotionally. Because when it's a physical illness, you can see you're bleeding. But when it is emotional, you can't quite see it until you see the reaction that you're having. Naturally, I am not a reactor. I'm not one who's going to yell and scream. So if I find myself yelling and screaming, there's an issue. So I recognized that there was an issue, and then I sought for help. So I looked at whether, like I said, a therapist, speaking to them, knowing about my colleagues, speaking to my colleagues who are trusted, to see some of the systems that I can use, tangible strategies. Somebody might say, change your seating plan. So these two kids are not friends and they're not talking. So just talking to people about the different aspects. But yeah, as a teacher, I had to make sure that I'm healed, because if I'm not healed, the students will not get the full what they're supposed to be getting from me. They will not see. I always say a teacher is a nurturer for the whole child. So yeah, when I'm frustrated and I'm wounded, I can go in and teach you. It's not a problem. Teaching you the normal logical things, I'll do that easy. But will I see the wounds that you have, the destiny that you carry? I won't be able to see that. If I'm lashing out, if I'm carrying unforgiveness, if I dislike that class because they're so naughty, then they're not getting the full thing because I can't give them the whole of myself. I need to give myself mentally, physically, emotionally to those children for them to really get the whole package. So teachers do need to heal. It's a pity that a lot of teachers don't have a lot of outlets to be able to go and heal. They don't have counselors. Students do, but teachers don't. When it came to the things I've gone through as myself, even transitioning from Kenya to UK, oh my God, that's just a whole other thing. Healing from that and not disliking the system, which now I call home, it took a journey. But it took a journey of accepting that this is the country. The Bible says you pray for the peace of where you are. So I started accepting UK as my country. And that brought healing as well. I still don't like the weather when it's winter, but I accept it as my home, and it's a package. You have to go through all these things, and it's still a work in progress.
Lovely. We'll get deeper into this conversation, but for now, talk to me about curriculums. Having taught in a different country as an African, what is the education experience like there and here? What are the differences that you've been able to see? And how do you think it affects Africa significantly with where the continent is going?
Yeah, I think one of the things, I always say a curriculum is as good as you make it. So there are curriculums that are very traditionally academic. There are curriculums that are more skill-based. And so when I look at the British curriculum, when I started teaching, it was more academic. But after some time, they made it they adjusted it to become more competence as well. But when you look at Scandinavian curriculums, you look at the American curriculum, you find that they are more hands-on. And when I look at the Kenyan curriculum, where we've gone through, where we started with the British one, and then we came to 844, and then we came to competence-based education. I think it makes sense. All of them make sense, but it's the implementation. The biggest thing I've seen as the biggest hindrance is the fact that we introduce curriculums like the one we have now in Kenya without it looks like we didn't have a map that had the end at the beginning. So when the British curriculum was being altered, they took almost 5 years. They started with just 2 subjects, English and maths. And then the training of those teachers, the training of how we assess, the training of how we go through the system. It took that long. Kenya and Africa in general doesn't seem to have that. So I think the biggest difference for me is how do you train the teachers beyond the education in university? So you get your bachelor's degree. What's happening in that school? In the UK, every school will have teacher training every week, where the person who's doing pedagogy, which is the art of teaching, will teach us how to teach, how they want us to teach. You start with this, you do this, you do this. It's done locally in every single school. Because I'm in charge of behavior, I'll teach teachers how to analyze students so that they're not reactive, they're proactive. So all these things are done within the school. We also don't have the system where you have national school and extra county and the rest, because you go based on where you live. So the school will have the very academic child, what we call quote unquote average, a word I don't like, but I'm just using it for the example, and a child with special education needs. All of them are there. So as a teacher, you are going there and you're teaching all those kids in one. So I think that in a lot of ways, the African or the Kenyan way of doing things sometimes is limiting to where the globe is going. Yes.
There's something you mentioned, and I picked you up the other day about super curriculums and extra curriculums.
Yeah.
Would you just touch on it? And maybe another question. You've seen something about the word average. Why don't you like the word average? What effect do you think it has on a human being?
Because no one's average.
No one is average.
No one's average. We are all very good at something. And actually, I don't think people are good at everything. I failed in maths. I got a D minus. But
You don't look like it.
but I passed to go to university. And does that mean that I was average?
No.
Exactly.
So you mean there is no average human being?
No.
You know, there's a book here called The Road to Character. It says there are some human beings who are born with a natural sense of shallowness. So this guy says that there are people who are attuned to a natural sense of shallowness. Like, they are not just exciting, they are not leaders. So this guy, he's called David Brooks, he argues out that, like, for example, there are people who are supposed to be number 2. Like, they were supposed to be number 2. They were not supposed to be number 1. So do you mean that person, even in being number 2, the uniqueness is still being seen? They're not average.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we all agree that not every human being will be like the most extremely intelligent, but even in that shallowness, there is a geniusness in that shallowness.
Yes.
Because he argues out and says that there's a child who ended up serving, advising different presidents. Actually, the mother to that child used to tell that child, like, your face is chisel shaped. You're not supposed to wear certain capes. You're supposed to wear capes that are like this. When she was growing up, every day the mother used to spare like around 1 hour, 2 hours just listening to her. And there's a way in which the mother raised her to know her weaknesses, to know even the things that don't look good. The mother used to give her a piece of paper and tell her, write the things that are ugly about you. And the girl would write. Then the mother would tell her. The mother never gave her an opportunity to really write the things that are good, per se. She would only write the things that are ugly, the mistakes she's made. So this one, in turn, created humility by default. And this lady never focused on what she's good at only. She focused on what she's not good at. That's how she ended up standing out to the level of advising 5 governments, I think.
Wow.
So the road to character says that we really tell children, right, tell me what you wish to become. Tell me your ambition. What are you good at? So this book says that by virtue of someone saying what they're only good at, it creates a sense of pride, which means that even whatever they're good at, they'll not become good at it. Because they are so focused on how good they are that they end up not even becoming good. So it says that you should now begin asking human beings, what were your failures today? What are your weaknesses? Why did you lose friends? Why have you not responded to messages? Did you lie today? Why did you lie? Do you hate people? Did you know the name of the security guard? It says now when you begin to do this, it's called self-conquest and self-confrontation, which works on something called self-praise. And now you're able in turn to achieve humility. So I'm liking your statement, just where you've said that there is no average human being. I've never had that statement. That for me is a statement of the century. So back to our conversation on super curriculums. Go ahead.
So I like that, what you've said about the book, because a lot of times we as people, which is why I have a bit of a problem with the setting system. So when you have the class that has the most brightest, or the school that has the most brightest. I have a problem with that because of what you're saying, because we are looking at academia only, and we are not looking at the whole person. Now, when it comes to curriculum, we get the academic side pretty much okay. But you have what we call, so when it comes to extracurricular or core curricular activities, it's whereby you're developing the skills outside of the academia, but will support the academic skills. So you're looking at, how do I make sure that this child is very good at oratory skills to become the way you are? How you're building confidence, building debating skills, communication skills, networking, all those things. How do we make sure that extracurricular activities are there? Some of those will include music, they'll include sport, they'll include debating in itself. They will include other things like homework clubs, cooking clubs, for example, or technical clubs that are there so that they can develop that child. The other side is where you have the super curricular activities. Those ones are more academic, but they go deeper. So if you're teaching me even that debating, you need to make me understand how important it is. why I'm doing it. But in terms of super curriculums, it's about looking at, I am studying this thing, I'm going to go deeper in it, research, project, internship, all those things to help me to understand that thing. I think what is lacking in curriculums generally in schools is there is no combination of those two. I was reading today somewhere when I was coming that the government gives 1,000 shillings, 1,500 shillings for extracurricular activities per year, per child. And some of it is in the ministry. So I think the school just gets 1,000. That's nothing. So we're not really focusing on that, are we? And you look at super curriculums, when the students are choosing their subjects, how deep do you go? You've shown me books that you have that are telling me who you are. Are we doing that in our curriculums? We are not. And I'm not even talking about the Kenyan one only. I'm also talking of the West. A lot of us don't have that. And so the child comes out into the industry and is lacking. Now, which makes me say corporate are also missing out. Why are we not investing in schools? Yet they're the people that we have. I used to lead something called Learn for Work. These were 14-year-olds. We had Linklaters, one of the top global law firms, having our school as their business partner. Can you imagine that? They sponsored debating. I took students twice to Slovenia, once to Germany for debating, sponsored by Linklaters. Because these are the kids that will be their workforce in future. But we don't have that a lot. We don't see that. So there's a link between the super and extracurricular plus what you release in the world. And a lot of the things that we are doing right now when the children are over 20, we should have done them way, way earlier in school.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Does Kenya have any school that does super curriculums? Have you seen any?
Not to my knowledge, but I would imagine international schools probably do it better than national schools, than state schools. But I think also the better there's some actually, when I think about it, there's some schools that have very strong debate teams. The very, very good schools, I guess, national and extra county schools. Yeah. But I think the corporate side of things needs to be explored, because we can't just be saying it's the government only. Maybe the government just have that.
To get on board, yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever done such an event where you bring all these stakeholders, like you bring the corporates, you bring government, all these stakeholders, and you have this conversation with them? Has it happened?
No. Do
you think of doing that someday?
I should. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What's preventing? Thank you. What's your parting shot? Maybe in terms of the mind of a child and what are your plans? Maybe you can share with us about the event that you want to do in the UK. What does the future look like? Would you want to start a school someday? I know after here also people will ask questions. So we might do a part 2 just to respond to their questions. And after here, what's your call to action? Maybe there's a teacher who's watching, or maybe there's a kid who needs to heal, or maybe there's a parent who has a very dynamic kid. What would you tell this parent? What do you tell this teacher who's maybe losing hope, or this teacher who's just realized he's teaching or she's teaching from a place of training and not from a place of heart? And maybe there's a kid who's also been wounded by a teacher. What can you tell them? Or maybe there's a corporate that is watching. What can you tell them? These 4 people. What's your parting shot to them?
Okay, so I would say that if you're a teacher, you need to be encouraged at the fact that you hold destiny. They say that the future of the world is in the hands of a teacher. That's who you are. So never look at yourself in a way that diminishes who you are. You need to understand that you have what it takes to develop the next generation to become who they're meant to be. You need to heal. You need to make sure that you're healed so that you can give the best to that generation and create a legacy, because that's the world we are getting into. To the parent who feels, overwhelmed sometimes that you don't understand your child, that your generation and theirs is different, be encouraged as well and know that as a parent, you do the best that you can. What you need to know is that the school, understand the school, find somebody within the school system who can help you to decode what is going on in the life of your child. Look for coaches who are able to understand how generations work and how a teenager's mind work, because it's very different when a child is below the age of 12, 13, and after the age of 13. To the child who might be struggling, or indeed who's doing really well, but is not very confident about yourself. You are valued, you're seen, you're heard. You are the next generation. You're the leaders of today. You have to start leading yourself before you lead other people. And you do it from now. So get into those extracurricular clubs that are there. Stretch yourself, challenge yourself, understand who you are at a young age. Don't be afraid of exploration, because that's what will make you the creative, curious leader of tomorrow. Don't lose your childlikeness. Don't lose who you are, because society is bringing a lot to your table. Be yourself, be your authentic self. To the corporates, you need to just review your CSR policies. You need to look at how can you partner with schools and inject some cash in there, inject your expertise, your professionalism. We cannot afford to be teaching some things when the children are in university. We need to start from primary and secondary school. Partner with them and know how you can help and support them to create the character of the child that you want to see as a leader in future. In Africa, we have a lot of leadership problems. Where do they come from? Grassroots. Because our children are not growing up knowing the ethic that they're supposed to have, the moral code that they're supposed to live with. You hold that key. That's why you're successful. Use some of that money to give back.
Call to action. When is your event? How can people get access to you?
So my event is going to be in October. I will put it on my social media, which is Suzie Happy on TikTok and on Facebook and on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So in the UK, where can people find you?
In the UK, people can find me I'm based in London, but it's through social media as well that people can get me.
Lovely.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Do you plan to write a book? Do you plan to build a school? What does the next few years look like?
I'm very excited about the future because I've gone through the whole wounded woman and all that stuff. So I am very excited. I'd love to have a school that incorporates what I am saying. I would love to do conferences even here. There's so much exploration. I'd like to do consultancy. So writing a book, yes, I already have a title in my head, Immigrant Teacher, and the things that I have learned. Yes.
Lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm so happy to say this is the first edition of Mike and Soul. Mike and Soul means mindset, identity, and culture. We've talked about mindset, the mindset of the global perspectives. We've delved into identity. Then we've talked about culture, education, and how is all this related to the soul of a human being? Because you can see they say that the matter of the heart is the heart of the matter. Yes, they say that the matter of the heart is the heart of the matter. Because if the heart is not dealt with, the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So the heart is a very critical place. I'm looking forward to hold more conversations that are cross-cultural, and hoping that this will not be the first or the last time I'm sitting with Suzie. I'm happy to say that I've been able to coach her in a number of areas in public speaking and who she's just supposed to become. And sitting with you in this podcast is a dream come true. I wanted to sit down with you that apart from just maybe being your friend and being your coach and you supporting I Speak, to just sit down with you and the world gets to hear your voice. I'm looking forward. We are doing an event together, I Speak Festival. We're gathering about 1,000 teenagers on August 23rd. So I look forward to see the impact that will happen. And I'm looking forward to do more of these conversations. I want to appreciate her for creating the time intentionally and even for being vulnerable to not only share with us the victories, but you also shared with us, the divorce, the insecurities. I believe that this message will go to a teacher out there. And I believe that one day, in a teacher's conference, they'll watch this podcast and they'll be impacted. My prayer is that every teacher who has watched, that you'll encounter healing, you'll get to know the love of God. To every child who's been wounded through the education system, and not just children, even adults who never healed from the things they went through school, I pray that you'll get back your confidence and you'll be able to conquer as many things. On our side, as Walubengo, if you're there and you need public speaking coaching, reach out to us on +254 79495 9895 so that we can be able to work with you. And also, if you're there and you're a teacher and you'd like Suzie to come and speak to your teachers, because she'll be in the country for the next 1 month in August, we are praying that she'll be able to talk to a number of teachers and teams, not even just physically, but even virtually. You can reach out to her on Instagram, Suzie Happy, or TikTok. You can be able to reach out to her on the same name so that you can be able to just let her pour into your teachers. Thank you so much. On our side, we look forward to impacting your teachers, impacting the kids. Reach out to us on the same contact and we'll be able to work together. Otherwise, keep tuned. The Mike and Soul podcast is back like we never left, and we'll keep on releasing a lot of episodes on just different conversations in the area of mindset, identity, and culture. Let me just acknowledge the people behind the scenes. We have Double B, that's Bethwell and Bob, who've ensured that this podcast will be produced in the best quality. We have Sarah, who's also one of the people that we are partnering with to impact as many people. She's been here giving us energy, writing a number of things and smiling when Suzie was speaking, which has increased our dopamine. And to even the whole team behind the scenes who've ensured that this has run successfully, we don't take it for granted. Looking forward to see you in the next episode. Otherwise, have a great time. Just before you go, let's declare our declaration. Everyone say, I am blessed.
I'm blessed.
I'm gifted.
I'm gifted.
Nations and kings
Nations and
shall
kings
seek after me.
shall seek
Would you
after
wish
me.
to say a prayer before we
Yes,
conclude?
yes. Father, in Jesus' name, we're so grateful. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to each other and to speak to the audience out